Opening day for the Marlins ended in cinematic fashion with a walk-off winner.
You are Locked On Marlins, your daily podcast on the Miami Marlins.
Part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day.
Welcome into Locked On Marlins. I'm your host, Jeremiah Geiger. Go hit me up at Jeremiah Geiger2 over on X. And thank you for making Locked On Marlins your first listen of the day. Part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day. Make sure you're subscribed to the YouTube channel so you don't miss any episodes moving forward. Leave a like and leave a comment down below. And what a win for the Miami Marlins to kick off 2025. A comeback victory. The comeback fish are at it again. It was Sandy versus Skenes, the pitching matchup that was advertised all offseason between two of the game's best pitchers, a former Cy Young winner and then an up-and-coming future Cy Young winner in Paul Skenes. I have no doubt about that. But the story ended in a fashion that was completely unexpected, especially if you're a Marlins fan. Let's start with Sandy versus Skenes. So both pitchers showed signs of brilliance. I'm going to start by talking about Sandy. First off, what a opportunity for him and an experience for him coming back off of Tommy John surgery, his first return to a regular season game since 2023. It was a huge moment for him, and he showed signs of brilliance. He showed his dominant self on the mound, the ability to go out and just dominate hitters and pitch to the best of his ability. 4 2/3 innings. He struck out 7, so the strikeout stuff was there. The issue that Sandy ran into, he only gave up 2 runs, only gave up 2 hits, didn't give up a hit until the 5th inning, but it was the walks. He walked 4, very uncharacteristic of Sandy, who is very good at commanding his pitches. So he did get into a little bit of trouble. The pitch count got high and he ended up getting pulled in the 5th inning. Paul Skenes, on the other hand, was just Paul Skenes. He went 5 1/3, only 2 runs, 3 hits. He also struck out 7. So both these pitchers were not necessarily on their A+ game, but they were on their A- game, I would say. Both these guys showed how elite they can be, and any opportunity you get to watch them, it's must-watch TV. Now, the game, because these guys ended up leaving the game fairly early, they didn't complete 6 innings. It came down to the bullpen. Which bullpen would falter first? And the Marlins bullpen stepped up when they needed to. The Marlins bullpen did not falter. The Pittsburgh Pirates did. They gave up a 2-run lead, and the Marlins walk it off in the bottom of the 9th for their first ever walk-off victory on opening day. Absolutely great to see. An exciting last few innings. It felt watching the game. Now, when I was able to watch it, for those all across the baseball world, MLB TV was down for the first inning or so. So it was a very, very unique situation. You're sitting there, you're trying to watch the game. It's opening day, and the MLB TV servers are down. So I missed the first inning or two. Once it got back on, I was locked in, and it was a sluggish start to the Marlins offense. In particular, it was a sluggish start for the Pirates in general, with Sandy Alcantara shutting them down up until the 5th inning. Now, in the 5th inning is where things got a little bit away from the Marlins. Lake Botcher came in, gave up a 2-run home run. It was 4-1. You start to see the Marlins, same old Marlins. The offense is not clicking there, but they battled their way back. This is what this team is going to have to do moving forward, is battle their way back. And a couple unlikely heroes of the game, I'm going to talk more in depth about them later, but Derek Hill got the first hit of the Marlins season. Shout out Derek Hill, who is in the opening day lineup, or was in the opening day lineup for the Marlins. And against a right-handed pitcher as elite as Paul Skenes, it was surprising to see. Derek Hill, he's a right-handed batter whose main value comes from the ability to hit lefties. And he's not very good against right-handers. But ironically, he's the guy that gets the first hit of the Marlins season, and he absolutely crushed it. It was a 112 mile per hour double off of Paul Skenes. So make that make sense. Shout out Derek Hill for getting the first hit for the Marlins. And Kyle Stowers is the walk-off hero. Of course, he was hitting in the 2-hole today, and I criticized it. I will be the first one to sit here and tell you that Kyle Stowers, I didn't expect to get the start. I didn't believe he warranted or deserved the start in the opening day lineup, but he did. And he had a very productive day. He drew 2 walks and ends up getting the winning hit in the 9th inning. He ripped it down the right field line to drive in the winning run and send everybody home happy with a walk-off winner. There's nothing like a walk-off winner in baseball. Kyle Stowers was the man of the hour for the Fish. Overall, it's a very satisfying feeling. It's an exciting feeling if you're a Marlins fan to watch this team go out, fall behind, and it feels like it's going to be the same old Marlins, just a very boring, sluggish offensive performance from the team early on. And then in the later innings, in the 8th and the 9th, guys step up with timely hits. The bullpen shuts the Pirates down when they absolutely needed to. Shout out Jesus Tinoco. And then in the 9th inning, they capitalize and win the game. We've seen so many times before when the Marlins have an opportunity to win it in the bottom of the 9th and they can't get it done. It goes to extras and they end up losing. That didn't happen today. Today, they got the victory. They're 1-0. And every single team starts off 0-0. Marlins are right ahead in the win column. There's not going to be an 0-9 start. We're going to enjoy this one. I'm definitely going to enjoy this one. An awesome game for the opening day matchup. There's really no other way to put it. It was picture perfect and a testament to the guys in that clubhouse, the pitching staff, the lineup, manager Clayton McCullough battling to the very end, putting their head down and getting to work and coming out with an opening day victory. Coming up next, I'm going to talk more about the man of the hour, Kyle Stowers, how impressed I was with him, how impressed I was with a few other standouts from today's game. That's coming up right after this. There's nothing better than catching an MLB game live. The crack of the bat, the roar of the crowd, and the smell of ballpark food. And if you're looking to go last minute, Gametime makes getting tickets easier than ever. With last minute deals, all in pricing, and a lowest price guarantee, Gametime takes the stress out of buying MLB tickets. Plus, tickets drop as Gametime gets closer, meaning you can score an incredible deal. Gametime is the official ticket partner of Locked On, and as the season goes on, you know I can count on them to grab tickets that meet my needs. For example, Gametime has a picks feature. It makes the best deals effortless. It filters out all the extra stuff, and it only highlights the top discounts in the stadium. So you're going to see the best prices for what seat region you're trying to get. You can preview that exact seat before you purchase, so there's no bad surprise when you get to the stadium. Take the guesswork out of buying tickets with Gametime. Download the Gametime app, create an account, and use code LOCKEDONMLB for $20 off your first purchase. Terms apply. Again, create an account and redeem code LOCKEDONMLB for $20 off. Download Gametime today. Last minute tickets, lowest price, guaranteed. If you're an everyday listener, thank you for joining me here on Locked On Marlins, leave a like, share the podcast with your friends. If this is your first time, I do appreciate you checking the show out, and hit subscribe so you don't miss any further episodes as the season keeps going. Kyle Stowers had himself a day. Now, spring training, it was tough. It was tough for him. He struck out a lot, but he also walked a lot. And you saw some quality at-bats from spring training that translated into the first game of the year. And he got a timely hit when it mattered most, and he won the game for the Marlins with an absolute laser down the right field line that stayed fair and sent everybody home happy. Kyle Stowers, 1 for 3. He walked twice and with the game-winning hit. And I've said, I think Kyle Stowers has a short leash. I think him being in the lineup and playing every day, he's going to have to perform early on. Well, this was a huge first step for that. The confidence boost that Stowers is going to have from this cannot be understated. The amount of pressure that is on his shoulders, making the opening day roster, being thrust into the lineup, hearing the outside noise, no doubt, that maybe he doesn't deserve this spot and this opportunity. And he goes out there and gets the game-winning hit. Absolutely happy for Kyle Stowers. Another really underrated piece of his game is the ability to draw those walks, like I talked about. If he can continue that moving forward and get these timely hits. Now, remember, the walk-off single, that was on a 96-mile-an-hour fastball up in the zone. He absolutely turned on it and pulled it. So his timing was on, and it was against the fastball, which he has struggled with in the past. So really great game from him. A great game from Derek Hill. Derek Hill only had the one hit, but he also drew a walk, didn't strike out, and he scored a run. First hit of the game was against a right-hander, Paul Skenes. 112-mile-per-hour double. That'll play. That is a great at-bat and great production from a player who comes over as a waiver claim. This is his opportunity, makes the opening day roster, and he justifies it by having a good game today. Xavier Edwards didn't get a hit, but he walked twice. You love to see that. As long as he's getting on base, the hits are going to come, but the plate discipline was there. All in all, the Marlins walked 7 times today. Now that can be an indication of a weak Pirates pitching staff, the bullpen struggling, but they're not giving them easy outs. They're not chasing on throwaway counts. That's what you like to see. The walks were an emphasis in spring training, and they showed up today. They had good quality at-bats, and in the end of the game, when they were down 4-2 in the 8th inning, timely hits is what mattered. They kept themselves in the game by a solid start from Sandy Alcantara. He might have had his A- stuff because he did struggle commanding the fastball, but Sandy kept him in the game. The bullpen kept them in the game. And then in the 8th inning, Kyle Stowers draws a walk. Otto Lopez, base hit, drives him in. Okay, now it's 4-3. They're getting closer. Okay, there's something to watch for. And Dane Myers, who came into the game earlier in the 6th inning as a pinch hitter and struck out with the bases loaded. Now he comes back with a big opportunity with 2 outs. And Dane Myers singles up the middle, drives in Otto Lopez, tie game, new life across the board. So shout out Dane Myers for the ability to come off the bench and pinch hit. Pinch hitting is not easy. It is not easy for a baseball player at any level to grab a bat when you're not in the lineup, come in completely cold, against somebody who's going to be throwing upper 90s with devastating breaking stuff, as every single pitcher these days does. They're all throwing heat. Get the bat off your shoulder and make something happen. And he didn't have a good at-bat. His first at-bat, he went down. Went down with the bases loaded. But he flushed it. He put it to the side. And in the 8th inning, when it mattered most, he came up and got a huge base knock that put the Marlins in a position to eventually win the game. Otto Lopez, Dane Myers, Derek Hill, Kyle Stowers. None of these guys may be household names in the sport of baseball. But they all have a chip on their shoulder, and they all want to go out and compete. And that's what this team is going to do. They're going to compete. And when you put yourself in a competitive environment and you give yourself a chance, good things can happen and wins can happen. And that's what you saw today. This Marlins team did not give up. They could have rolled over and just gone down in order in the 8th inning. Didn't happen. Down 4-2, let's tie it up. In the 9th inning, it's 4-4. Jesus Tinoco's pitching in the 9th. Gets himself into a little bit of trouble. He walked a batter, gave up a hit. Runners on 2nd and 3rd. They did a double steal. Marlins gave up 6 stolen bases today. That has to be fixed. You're not going to win too many games when you give up that many stolen bases. But you know what he did? He said, all right, I'm locked in. Struck out Joey Bart. Ends the inning. Strands the go-ahead run at 3rd and another runner at 2nd. Huge for Tinoco. Bullpen stepped up. It gave themselves a chance. And then in the ninth inning, what happened? Nick Fortes, the incumbent starter at catcher. You know, he knows Agustin Ramirez is waiting in the wings. He knows Joe Mack is down in the minors. Rips a triple. Dead center field. First triple Nick Fortes has hit in 3 seasons since 2022. Absolute piss missile over O'Neal Cruz's head. Gets on third base. He's the winning run as Kyle Stowers singles him in. Well, he singles in Javier Sanoja. I forgot that. Sanoja came in to pinch run for Nick Fortes at the end. I can't believe I missed that part. But it's a very satisfying win if you follow this team and you care about this team so deeply and you watch these players and you have your doubts about them, as I do. I doubted Kyle Stowers. I doubted Derek Hill being in the lineup in the first place. I didn't understand it. I tweeted it out. What are they doing in the opening day lineup? Why is Derek Hill starting? Why is Kyle Stowers hitting second? And now I'm going to eat my words, and I am very happy to do so. I love this team, man. I love this team with all my heart, and it makes me so happy to see these guys step up when it matters most and get a victory in comeback fashion. Not the household names, but they're battling out there. They're competing. I absolutely love it. It is Friday. I have the mailbag wide open. A lot of good questions. I'm going to get to your mailbag questions right after this. Baseball season is in full swing, and there's no better way to get in on the action than with PrizePicks, the best place for daily fantasy sports. With PrizePicks, you pick more or less on at least 2 player projections, and if you're right, you can win up to 1,000 times your cash. Whether it's strikeouts, RBIs, or first inning runs, PrizePicks keeps every game exciting. Setting up a lineup takes less than 60 seconds, and when you win, your payout is quick, safe, and secure. So overall, PrizePicks is very fast and simple. You can take advantage of Taco Tuesday, where PrizePicks offers discounts on select player projections for even more value. Download the app today and use the code LOCKEDONMLB to get $50 off instantly after you play your first $5 lineup. That's code LOCKEDONMLB for $50 instantly after you play your first $5 lineup. PrizePicks, run your game. As I get into the mailbag questions, a reminder, if you want your question focused on the show and me to answer your mailbag question as best as I can, you can hit me up at Jeremiah Geiger 2, or you can leave a comment in the YouTube channel in the comment section. Just let me know what your thoughts are on this team, and I will give you a shout out and answer your questions to the best of my ability. Now, let's get into this week's mailbag questions. I'm going to start with Confused Traditional Catholic. He says, we heard the Twins are hundreds of millions of dollars in debt. Do you think the Marlins are solvent? If so, why? Appreciate the question. I'm going to say I don't think so. Bruce Sherman bought the team for more than it was worth. He overpaid for the team. And he's not going to pay out of pocket, and he's not going to reinvest money into the team if he believes he's losing money. I don't know the Marlins numbers across the board, but I do know that Bruce is one of baseball's least wealthiest owners, and he doesn't have the cash or the capital to spend like all these other owners do. So like Steve Cohen, for example, with the New York Mets, he's not going to ever be on that level. He doesn't have the cash. He overpaid for the team. So the Marlins, what they're worth right now is worth significantly less than the amount that he bought it from Jeffrey Loria. So I don't think the Marlins are in a position to be generating a ton of cash flow that is just expendable, and they're able to spend a ton of money. Now, can they spend some? Sure. I mean, we saw that with Avisail Garcia. But are they in a position to make these huge contract moves? No. That's why you have to make smart moves, smart extensions, and you have to be able to spend something. I'm not asking you to spend like Steve Cohen. I understand the situation you're in because you did overpay for the team, and you're not necessarily one of the wealthiest owners in baseball. But if you can't spend something and field somewhat of a competitive payroll, upwards of $100 million, then you should sell the team. Point blank, period. Vic from Box the Base podcast, which player, pitcher, or position player is the first one to get called up who is not on the opening day roster? It can only be one player. Thank you for the question, Vic. Josh Simpson is my answer to that. Left-handed reliever, almost made the opening day roster, was so close, and the Marlins decided to only roll with one left-hander, Anthony Veneziano. Probably will see him this weekend. But I think Josh Simpson gets the call very soon. He is somebody who they obviously liked to an extent where they kept him as long as possible before cutting him at the very, very end of spring training, right at the end of the roster cutoffs. They didn't set their 26-man roster, 25-man until today, until until the opening day game. But I do think Josh Simpson comes up. He's too talented. He has such an electric arm, and he's an absolute weapon, especially against left-handers. So that is my prediction, Vic. Ed Helinsky says, please give us a prediction on the Marlins record this season. I hate to do this, Ed, because we're enjoying an opening day victory. I'm all positive vibes right here, right now. But my prediction for the Marlins overall in 2025 was 60 wins, 102 losses, and I'm going to stick by that. I say 60 wins. I would love it if they somehow broke that and exceeded my expectations. But I've been very optimistic in the past, and top to bottom with this team, they're gritty, they work hard, and they compete. And they could surprise people. That is their mantra this year. They're going to want to compete every day and put themselves in a position to win. But the talent disparity from them to other teams in the National League is too broad. I think the depth of this team, especially in the pitching staff is too concerning for me. I think they win 60 games, lose 102. Josh says, how long do you think Otto Lopez stays in the Marlins org, even with all the second base / shortstop guys Bendix got during the offseason? Great question, because Otto Lopez, for me, was somebody who I look at as a placeholder type profile. Somebody who's not going to be here in the long run because of the middle infield depth that is up in the minor league system. Jared Cerna, Max Acosta. Otto Lopez had a great game today. Got a base hit, tied the game, scored a run, drew a walk. He plays really good defense at second base. And the more you think about it, if he can continue this, there will be no reason to rush him. Now, if there are signs of regression where maybe the defense slacks a little bit, or he's not a big power hitter, so the average and OBP drop down a little bit, that's going to possibly open the door for Jared Cerna and Max Acosta. And I still think that you see one of those, if not both of those prospects, in the big leagues at some point this season. But Otto Lopez has a chance to really, really buck the narrative when it comes to him as a player. Oh, he was a waiver claim. He's expendable. This is what I've said. I will be the first one to tell you that, because I want to see what Otto Lopez does in a second full season. But if he can truly be consistent at the plate and still maintain his elite caliber defense at second base, then Otto Lopez will have a role for the entirety of this year, and he will have a role going into next year. Or at the very least, given the control he has, he will be an optimal trade target at some point next season. So I don't know how many more years Otto Lopez is going to be a Marlin, but I loved what he did today. And I think if he can continue to be consistent and not take a step backward at the plate, he's going to play every single day. And that's what you want out of your starting second baseman. Adam says, which player in this organization do you think can make an impact that we don't talk about? I'm going to go a different direction here. What a lot of people are talking about the rotation. When they're talking about the rotation, they talk about Max Meyer and Sandy Alcantara and Ryan Weathers, who unfortunately is injured. I'm going to go out and say Cal Quantrill. Cal Quantrill will start the 5th game of the Marlins season. He's going to open as the Marlins' 5th starter. But he comes over on a 1-year deal, and it's a prove-it deal. He turned down a 2-year deal to stay with Colorado. I don't know the money, how much the money was, but it was probably more than the Marlins' $3.5 million on a 1-year deal. And to me, that just says Cal Quantrill is betting on himself to earn a higher payday next offseason. This is a prove-it deal. He's a veteran starter. He knows what it takes to pitch at the major league level. He's going to provide leadership and mentorship for the younger pitchers in the clubhouse, for the younger players in the clubhouse. And he's going to find himself in a situation for the Marlins where it's a win-win for him and the organization. If he pitches well, he will be a commodity at the deadline where the Marlins can flip him for prospects, build towards their future. Cal goes to a winning team. And with a $3.5 million salary, that salary isn't holding anybody back. He can get a bigger payday if he pitches well with the Marlins. And the Marlins have somebody who can eat innings, provide protection to the rest of your young pitching staff and your bullpen by not leaving the game in the second inning and having these horrible starts. You don't want it to be like a Johnny Cueto situation, but it was a very underrated signing of the offseason for the Marlins. Cal Quantrill, I do believe, can make an impact on this team and provide quality start after quality start for the Marlins moving forward. That's going to do it for today's edition of Locked on Marlins. I hope it was a happy opening day for all of you out there. And until next time, stay safe and let's go fish.